Hi, I'm Ken Lammers. Welcome to Minor League Matters, and today we're going to discuss the logos in the AHL, the highest minor league hockey league. We've already talked about the ECHL, the league right behind it, and a couple of independent leagues in the SPHL and the FHL. Uh, we're going to talk about what's in the AHL this time, and probably tomorrow we're going to compare the top of each of these leagues and see which one comes out on top. The AHL obviously is one level below the NHL. It's like AAA baseball basically, except it's in hockey, and so some of these franchises have put a lot more thought into what their logo is going to be. And some of them have just gotten lazy and used the mothership's logo. And we'll get there when we get there. So, let's get cracking. Okay, so as you can see here looking at this, some of these teams, unlike some of the lower level teams, they put a lot of work into their logos. And then we've got a lot of tradition of these logos over time. And some of them have not. Okay, this little cat down in the middle of the bottom, you can't see it as well because this logo, the background faded away, but that down at the middle of the bottom, it's some sort of weird rabid cat with a puck and a stick behind it. Not a great logo. The Wolfpack one here, it has potential, right? Wolves actually have good potential to be a good logo, but it's not particularly well drawn. The color scheme with that kind of dead blue and red isn't the greatest either. It's just it has a lot of potential, but it's not there. To the left of that is some Bruins, the Bruins version of the AHL, and no, you don't get credit for having the mothership's logo and just putting your letter on it instead of a B. So that one, while I'm a fan of the Bruins logo in the NHL, you don't get it. No credit there. And the same thing on the other side. Texas Stars, which are the AHL team for the Dallas Stars, that's a sharp logo, and I've seen their jerseys, and it's a nice jersey, and it all looks good, but all you've done is, copy the mothership, and you don't get credit for that. So they're out of it. Above that's the Crunch, and I like superhero movies, and I've read comic books in my day, and admittedly have sometime recently too, a few, but drawing your logo as a superhero doesn't really work, or at least I guess it works for the flying squirrels in baseball, minor league baseball, but this one does not, and it's just too kind of weird shaped, and that is not a good logo for the front of your jersey. It just doesn't work. The Ice Hogs, I'm sure that some company put a lot of time and money into making this for them and making a really good picture and of this hog eating a hockey stick, and it probably plays well with the kids and that, which means it plays well with some parents. But come on, it's not a good logo. Bouncing back to the other side, we've got the Milwaukee Admirals, and I look at them and I go, wow, somebody spent some time watching the Pirates of the Caribbean. Nice try, guys. I mean, it's not the greatest color scheme, that blue, dark blue on light blue, and it just doesn't really work all that well around. It's just not the greatest logo. That leaves us with about four. We've got the Hershey Bears, and Obviously, from Hershey, Pennsylvania, you have to keep the same color as chocolate, so everything's going to be chocolatey colored. But it's not a bad logo. It's a pretty solid logo with the bear standing there on top of the hockey stick, on top of the bottom half of the circle being Hershey Bears. It's not a bad logo at all. We get down here in the bottom right-hand corner, the Cleveland Monsters. It's kind of a shame that Cleveland doesn't have its own NHL team. I guess that the mathematics of it is they don't figure there's enough hockey fans in Ohio for both Cleveland and Columbus to have an NHL team. I think that's not true. I think both those cities are big enough they could, but they don't. So it's kind of flipped. In baseball, it's the other way around. Cleveland has the major league team, and same for football. Well, there is no minor league in football, but Cleveland has the major league team, and the minor league team is in Columbus for baseball. Or it's a AAA team, just one level down. And I guess it kind of is that way for football too. I mean, come on, the University of Ohio is in, or Ohio State University is in Columbus. So they've got the minor league football team, and Cleveland has a team that's arguably an NFL team, arguably. And then we've got, right here in the middle is the Manitoba Moose. It's a solid, well-drawn logo, pretty easily identifiable, and while even with the blue, white, and gray color scheme, it pops. And I think that that's going to be my number one off of this page, is the Manitoba Moose. It's unique too. You don't see a whole lot of that logo elsewhere. A lot of dogs and cats and pigs for some reason, and bears, but not many moose. Next, we've got these guys. Okay, the Barracuda. Well, obviously, it's a little bit overly cute, a little bit overly drawn, and the color scheme is such that it kind of fades in on itself. It's not the greatest logo. The Iowa Wild, that's just, nobody put any effort into that at all. The Condors, somebody's put some effort into that one, and it is a fairly unique critter to be putting on your logo. Not a terrible idea. I don't like the color scheme. That orange and that kind of blue and gray doesn't work for me all that well. But I mean, it's okay. The next to it is obviously somebody who's a Toronto affiliate, and they just took Toronto's maple leaf and stuck a crown on it. That doesn't cut it. That doesn't differentiate you enough from the mothership to get you beyond. Down below, that's the Thunderbirds. Basically it's just the head of a bird. Not terrible, but not great either. And it'll probably work out. It probably works out okay on the jersey. The Lehigh Valley Phantoms. What is that? That's just it doesn't work. Somebody drew them up a really nice logo that doesn't show anything and doesn't work. Tucson Roadrunners. Come on, guys, get somebody to redraw that for you or do something. It's not a bad idea for a logo. And of course, there's all sorts of ways you can play up Roadrunners. So you might want to rethink that. Devils. I'm not a big fan of Devil logos to begin with. This one's not particularly well drawn. And just doesn't look all that good. That leaves us with two. The Ontario Reign and the San Diego Gulls. I got to say that as I look at these, I really, the Reign is kind of a cool logo setup. It's got a easily identifiable patch that would fit well onto the jersey, and then there's a crown below it, and I think that could be a really good logo. Except for the fact it's black and white. It's like somebody doodled it. So in the end, I'm left with the San Diego Gulls, which is not a bad logo. It's a pretty doggone solid logo. The upside down triangle form works well. The bird, I have never seen a seagull look like that, but okay, fine. If that's where we're going, that's okay. And of course, it's got the hockey stick, ubiquitous required hockey stick. If you're going to have some sort of version of an animal that is your logo, I think you're required to hand it a hockey stick somehow. I'm not sure how a seagull got hands, but okay. But that's my choice out of this one. Moving on to the next one. We got another whole group of them here. As we go across this one, there's some that have lots and lots of potential here. The San Antonio Rampage has a huge amount of potential here, but it's just like a gray and white picture. They could make that really cool. The Sound Tigers, well, we're just going to let that one go because it looks like it was drawn in Archie Comics back in the day. Somebody who's obviously a Penguin franchise, nope. Just because you bulked it up doesn't mean that you get away with it, that you get any credit for it. The Stockton Heat, not a terrible logo. It's just too abstract. That's just something that's going to sit on a jersey, and everybody's going to be like, what is that? Right? If you're wearing a T-shirt with that, they're going to be, what is that? Then we get the 3 logos above that, or actually kind of the 4 logos above that, which all have some potential. I'm not a big fan of, like I say, of letter logos. So the B logos, okay. The Rocket logo is, again, okay. Both of those are letter logos. They could probably use something beyond that. The Americans, that's got a lot of potential. It's a decent logo as is, but it looks like something, as all these do, and the comments above that, all these look like they were something that was drawn in the 50s and nobody's bothered to update, right? The Utica Comets actually have something that looks like it could be a really, really good logo there, except the color scheme's bad and it just needs to be redrawn. Same thing with the Americans. It needs to be redrawn. It could be an amazing logo. The other two, well, kind of need to get away from the fact that you've got just a letter logo and do something with it. That leaves us really, folks, with the Griffins and the Checkers. The Griffins have a fairly new redrawn logo where this Griffin is climbing over the name and looking backwards, and it's hard to really tell that that's a wing on his back, but that's what it is, because otherwise he wouldn't be a Griffin. And then we've got the Checkers down here. The Checkers have a strong, solid logo here. Charlotte Checkers, polar bear, the good color scheme. It's well drawn, and I think that's a good logo. The only problem I have with it is that the Checkers are not. I don't understand what a polar bear's got to do with Checkers. The Griffins, I think it's a tight call for me, really, and there's several decent ones here, but tight call between the Checkers and the Griffins. I think if the Griffins had their old-fashioned logo, where they had more of a Griffin as you would have seen it on an Assyrian archaeological dig or something like that, which was cool, they may have won this. But this thing, where it's like an eagle with claws turning around, and what's hard to distinguish as wings on its back, it just doesn't quite cut it. So I think the Checkers are the best out of this entire group. That leaves us with these folks, guys. The Manitoba Moose, the Charlotte Checkers, and the San Diego Gulls. Now, let's be honest here. The Gulls kind of made it through because nobody else in their group was really all that great. So while that's a pretty good logo, solid, will look good on a hockey jersey. it's just not going to cut it. So I'm going to, move them to the side, and that leaves us with the Manitoba Moose and the Charlotte Checkers. Manitoba has, it's a zombie moose, right? I hate the blank white eyes when they do these things. It looks like a zombie moose, but it's got that growl to it. It looks fierce. I'm not sure if a moose ever looks like that, but this one looks pretty fierce. The color scheme's a little bit weak with the blue and gray and all that. But I just got to say, and if they'd have left aside that bubble behind it with the pine trees in it, which kind of makes things a little confusing sometimes when you look at this logo. If they'd have left that alone, this would be a really, really, well, it's a solid logo now. It'd be an even better logo. Unfortunately, though, I think the Checkers have got them beat. I mean, the Checkers have got a good color scheme. It's well drawn. It is something that looks really good on a jersey. So I just think overall, not by a huge amount, the Checkers get it. So, folks, in my opinion, in the AHL, the Charlotte Checkers have the best logo of all the logos in the AHL. Now, if you disagree with me or have any comments, feel free to put them down below. I'll say what I always say. I'll try to read them all. I can't guarantee I'm going to answer any of them because I got a day job, folks. If you like this episode, or what do you want to call it, hit like. If you like what you see around here generally, ignore a couple things where I tried to live stream and it went really bad. Look past those. But if you like what you see around here generally, subscribe. And, most importantly of all, if I've said it once, I'll say it a million times, go watch some minor league sports. And with that, I'll have a good day. I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully to figure out which of all these logos is the best of the best.